Hello, my dear friends. Hello, my dear listeners. How are you all? I hope you are doing best in your situation with utmost honesty and love. And we are ready to start a new week ahead of us with utmost vigor and honesty and love. So, let's start. So, today we are going to start a new story from Bengal fairy tales written by Francis Bradley-Birt and illustrated by Abanindranath Thakur. This book was first published in 1920 and it was published in London by John Lane, the Botley Head, and in New York by John Lane Company. So, let's proceed. This book has three parts, and from the first part, we are going to read the eighth story. The story is the Willy Brahmin. So let's start. So we are here to start a new story, which is the Willy Brahmin. There was once a certain Brahmin and his wife who, although they were in quite good circumstances, were very miserly. It was rumored that they had amassed a considerable sum of money in cash and that the gold mohurs and rupees in their chest were covered with rust. Some thieves, hearing of this one night, approached their house and from behind the sleeping room began consulting as to the best means by which they could get inside. They supposed the Brahmin and his better half to be asleep, and so were not too careful to talk only in whispers. But their intended victims were awake, and the Brahmin determined not only to thwart them but to utilize their labors for his own benefit. So, in an audible and distinct voice, he said to his wife, O Brahmini, I fear thieves will tonight break into our house, but what can they find? All our wealth is safely buried in the field just behind the house. The thieves, on hearing this, naturally gave up the idea of housebreaking and all in a body, their number being about a score, left the place and having secured hoes and spades, returned to the field and dug it from one end to the other. But to their surprise, they found nothing worth having. The Brahmin, however, reaped great benefit from their labor. It was the proper season of the year to have the field dug and prepared for the cultivation of rice. And he thus got the digging done by the thieves without spending a single kori for the purpose. Disappointed though not dispirited, the thieves made their appearance the next night behind the Brahmin's window, intending to break through it. He was expecting them, however, and hearing the sounds of their footsteps when they came to the spot, he addressed his wife, saying, You see how I have balked the thieves? I suspected their approach, and therefore, to hoax them, I spoke of having buried my treasures in the field, while in reality I have kept them at the bottom of the tank beside it. The thieves, hearing the words at once, went off and secured very capacious vessels to empty the tank, and set to the work in night earnest. The tank soon looked like a dry pit, while all its water had run over the field, fertilizing the soil for the purpose of agriculture and thus saving the Brahmin considerable expenses. The Brahmin, fearing that the thieves, having been balked twice, would muster in greater force than before and make a more determined and desperate effort, left home the next evening to secure the services of some hirelings to make a strong resistance against attack. A thick darkness covered the fields as he anxiously sped on his errand. In the middle of one of the fields, he saw six stalwart men seated in a circle round a fire at which they were warming themselves. He drew towards them, for he too was feeling cold, and to make some for himself, said to one of them, Saratu bhai, tapai. Now, the beings he saw were not men but ghosts. But they also, being of flesh and blood, feel cold as well as men, and require to warm their limbs. And the one addressed, whose name was Tapai, was startled to hear as he imagined a human being calling him by name. In a nasal tone, peculiar to ghosts alone, he exclaimed, Brahmin, how did you know my name and come to address me so familiarly? The Brahmin was petrified with awe at hearing the voice, for it took him no time to realize that he was in the midst of a company of ghosts. But he summoned up his courage and said, Friend, though you seem not to know me, I know you well. At this, another ghost, to try him, asked him if he knew his name, and the Brahmin replied, Hila re bhai hila, don't I know your name? This to hit the mark, for the ghost's name was Hila, and the word the Brahmin had uttered as an interjection sufficed to save him from much trouble and perhaps even from death. The ghosts at once took him as their friend and asked him the motive that brought him to them. He told them how a band of ruffians was in league against him, and how great was his need of helpers, and they in a body accompanied him to his house for the purpose of assisting him. So, my dear friends, today I am going to stop here and we will read the next part of the story tomorrow. So, till then, be happy, be jolly. Ta da!